Welcome back to DIY My Way. I'm Martin. You're looking at the first home Big Orange ever had. Soon after I bought him, I knew I needed a place to put him. So I built this lean-to off the back of my garage to give him a place to live until I built the shop, which is out that way. Now, I'm making this video as a special request from one of my subscribers, Michael. So Michael, this is for you. You had asked me a while back how I went about building mine, because you're considering building one this summer, I believe. And so I'm going to tell that story. Now, I didn't shoot any video while I was making this, but I did take a lot of pictures, and I'm going to shoot some video now showing some of the features of how I went about designing it and deciding on the dimensions of it. The challenge for building this shed was getting the headroom and space I needed within the space available. The loader bucket is the widest part of my tractor at 5.5 feet across. I found that I could set the posts 11 feet from the back wall and comfortably have enough space on either side of Big Orange. The 11-foot width allowed me to use 12-foot 2x6 rafters and have a decent overhang. As for headroom, I wanted it tall enough so I wouldn't have to fold down my ROPS to get the tractor under the shed. The tractor is 91 inches tall with the ROPS up. The more clearance the better, but there was a trade-off between headroom and the length of the shed. The farther up the carport gable I went, the shorter the ledger board would have to be for the rafters to attach to. I mounted the ledger board so that the bottom of the rafters would be 101 inches from the ground. The roof is at a 5-degree pitch so that the clearance at the posts is 91 inches. However, in the middle where the tractor lives, there is 4.5 inches of clearance on the low side. Getting that 101-inch height on the high side of the shed meant the total length of my ledger boards could only be 21 feet to fit in the gable space. So the total length of the shed is 22 feet, including a 6-inch overhang on each end. The very first thing I had to do was remove a big rock from behind the carport to be able to use the area for a tractor shed. It was too big to dig out, so I needed a way to break it up enough to get it below grade. This is where Dexpan Expand and Grout came in handy. I have a video on that rock removal job you might like to see that involves drilling several holes in the rock, mixing the Dexpan, and then letting it do its magic. With the rock out of the way, I used a combination of my tractor's front end loader and backhoe and box blade to clear and smooth out the ground behind the carport. The first thing to go up was the ledger boards and rafter hangers. Ledger boards didn't need to be 2x10 for the strength of supporting it, but instead so I could get the height where the joist hangers hung for my clearance for the shed. The main reason for the height was so that I could have the lag screws that attach it to the carport go in both the top plate and the upper plate of the wall here. So they're staggered in this way so that each one hits these 6-inch, I think said 3/8 inch by 6-inch lag screws. Every other one hits into the upper plate and the other one into the top plate of the wall. So I've got a very strong support here. Now normally the joist hangers just have 2 nail holes per side, but I added another one on each side so that I could have 6 nails on each side just for my peace of mind. The rafter hangers were mounted 24 inches on center. Next, with the help of my wife, I set 4 4x4 by 10-foot pressure-treated posts 11 feet back from the back of the carport, right at the edge of what will be the French drain ditch. We used various random pieces of lumber to support the post during the build. The posts were set in concrete piers, and I made the pier forms from 5-gallon plastic plant pots with the bottoms cut off, which by the way was my wife's idea, and she had plenty of them to donate to the cause. I also put 2 3/8 inch by 4-inch long galvanized lag screws in the bottom of each post to help anchor them into the concrete. Here's a closer look at a finished pier. You can also see why I need a French drain here. The ledger boards on the posts were mounted so that the roof would have the 5-degree pitch I wanted.
They were attached using 3/8 inch by 4 inch long galvanized lag screws and washers. With the ledger boards in place, the 2x6 pressure-treated roof rafters go up quickly, attached with galvanized tie brackets made by Simpson. I then added blocking between the rafters midway along the span for extra rigidity. Now I chose plywood for the roofing deck even though I was planning on a metal roof, mainly because I didn't want to worry about keeping my feet on purlins while installing it. You can see that Big Orange is eager to help me build his new home. Once the roof decking was on, I added the diagonal post supports to firm things up even more. The diagonals are 2x4 pressure-treated lumber. They are attached to the posts with 3/8 inch by 6 inch long galvanized lag screws and washers, with opposite screws angled a bit to avoid colliding in the middle. The screw heads are also countersunk. The top of the diagonals extend behind the top of the ledger boards and are secured with 3 3-inch coated deck screws. After the roof decking went on, I put on roofing felt since I didn't have the metal roofing sheets yet. I should also mention that this was built over the course of a few weekends. The metal roofing came next. I used 12-foot length sheets which worked out nicely. The flashing next to the carport is attached with the same screws that were used on the roofing panels. And I applied a generous amount of metal roofing sealant behind the edges of the flashing as well as on top of the flashing seams. Both ends of the flashing are cut to match the carport roof pitch. I use 1x8 pressure-treated lumber for the fascia boards. I also added some lights and a door on the back of my carport for easy access to the shed. A first layer of gravel on the shed floor adds a nice touch. Since my shed is next to a steep embankment, I need a French drain and a retaining wall. The French drain was made by laying down a 4-foot wide roll of high-quality weed mat along the trench, followed by a thin layer of number 57 gravel, then rigid 4-inch French drain pipe, followed by more gravel, then wrapping the weed mat over on itself to cover the pipe and gravel. Notice that I have put pier forms between the posts. You'll see why shortly. Also notice that I added a section of flexible 4-inch French drain pipe to the end to continue on around the curve of the bank. I won't go into much detail about the retaining wall since this video is really about building the tractor shed, but I'll cover the basics on it. I built my retaining wall by attaching 4x6 pressure-treated lumber to the back side of the posts with 3/8 inch by 6 inch long galvanized lag screws and washers. They were screwed in from the back side to be invisible. The short posts between the shed posts provide extra strength for the wall. Oh, and I added a pipe stub up for a future gutter to feed into the French drain. Leftover roofing felt made a perfect protective barrier between the soil and the wall lumber. Finally, each section of the wall was topped with a piece of 2x8 pressure-treated lumber.
So that's the story of how Big Orange got his first home here in this shed. Unfortunately, I have some update about his next new home, which is the shop building out there. You'll be seeing some videos on that soon. And Michael, I hope this has answered the questions you might have had on how you might build your shed. For any of the rest of you out there who have questions, please ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Hey, if you enjoy these videos that I make, help me out by clicking the like button, commenting below, and especially by subscribing. And you can also click that little bell to get notifications when a new video comes out. And as always, thank you for watching.